Welcome in everyone, James here. Now you might have heard the term hero class being thrown around and you're trying to work out which one is best for you, or maybe even what the point of committing yourself to a single hero class is. In this series of videos I'm going to be putting all 5 hero classes through their paces, explain what every hero class plays like as you start nearing that end game stage, and show you what exactly it is you're aiming for. Before we begin, I'm going to explain a lot of stuff, so this intro will be a bit of a guide unto itself, and just as a heads up, I'm going to paste it into all of the videos in this series. Now, first things first, the reason we recommend you focus on just the one hero class is because you can get charms to boost all 5 of the hero classes. And the best way to utilize those charms is to stack as many of one single type as possible into your armor. Mixing different types of hero charms into one set of armor just gives you bad results across the board, and it's not even worth doing. Secondly, by focusing on one single hero class as early as possible, you can save yourself a ton of time and effort because you're not going to run out of tomes from leveling up all the random heroes that you unlock, and you can stick to just the ones that are in your selected hero class and still be able to cover pretty much everything the game has to offer. Now, don't get me wrong, all of the 5 hero classes are viable, but each have different strengths and weaknesses across different areas of the game. I'll be using the same build across all 5 classes because the fundamentals don't change much. This is the build, it's 375% hero power. Obviously I will change which charms are in there depending on which class I'm talking about. On the body piece there, I have 4 defense charms and 1 weakened chance. That one is essential in my opinion. And then on the helmet, I've got 4 more defense charms. This one is a unique helmet because my mythic one is set up for the monster caves and it's a little bit jank at the minute. The gauntlets you use will change depending on what class you're using, and to some extent the weapons do change as well, they can change. But normally I'd recommend having 100% protect on your main rift weapon regardless. Now, when selecting a hero class, the most important thing you need to do is identify the weakened hero for that class, because when you're starting out in this game, weaken and protect is the most important tactic you need to learn. So here's how it works, and I apologize if you already know this, but what you do is you get a hero with weaken on rage, and then when you rage that hero, you will hopefully apply weaken to all of the enemies. Weaken will lower their damage by 35%. Then if you apply protect to yourself, either with a weapon that has 100% chance to proc protect, or a hero with protect on their base power, protect will lower all damage to you by another 35%. So when these two statuses are in effect, that's 70% damage negation. And then you can take it even further. If you attune your mythic armor, you get 10% damage negation per attunement from whatever enemy type it is attuned to. So the trick is you attune 3 pieces to the same type. I'm going to use beast for this example. You use weaken and protect, and now you have 100% damage negation, so when they hit you, just nothing will happen, you won't take any damage. Now you've got 5 pieces of mythic armor and you can attune all 5 of them. So you can attune 3 to one type and 2 to another type and achieve 100% from one enemy type and 90% from a second, which is why this works so well, because most fights will only have 2 enemy types at a time. You can see me using this strategy to full effect in the Achilles Cave videos, which is pretty much the hardest fight in the game right now. But more to this point, one of the most common misconceptions in this game is that you need to keep your armor leveled up all the time. You don't. You just simply don't have to. What you need to do is keep your weakened hero leveled up all the time, because if their level is too low, the weaken just won't work. So always try to keep them the same level as you. You're not going to need your armor leveled up if you're not taking any damage to begin with. And all this is usually realized way too late in the game, which is a problem because this type of game, if you set off on the wrong path, it can be faster in the moment, but it will cost you months of progression further down the line, and it's full of all these little pitfalls that the game just sets you up for, so that you can feel overpowered 1 minute and then you hit a wall and then you need to start again. Do you like to use stun or freeze in the Rift? guess what? It doesn't work in Expert Rift. As soon as the threat gets to about 20 to 40 points above your Rift power, it just stops working. And this is just one of the little pitfalls that the game sets you up for. There is so many. Now the Expert Rift starts at 280 threat. So when you get started in there, you're going to be in a threat deficit most of the time, and getting more Rift power is a lot easier said than done, because that's another pitfall. You need to save all of the currency for the monster cave shops to buy the upgrade stones, to upgrade all the gear, to get more Rift power, and it's such a huge grind. So having said that, the PvE ratings I give for each class will all be based on the Expert Rift, because not only is it hard, it's the most important area of the game that you should be playing each week to keep your progression going. You get all the upgrade materials to go from level 50 to 60 for your armor and your weapons, and you get pretty much everything else you can think of in there: charms, mythic essence, gear, gauntlet cores. You get so many gauntlet cores. One thing to note in the Expert Rift is that the Rift power and the threat, the numbers, they don't actually matter. It's the difference between the numbers that matters. And at about 170 threat deficit, so that's when the threat is above your Rift power, the enemies are going to cap out and they're not going to get any stronger. So if you can reliably win at 170 threat deficit, you can beat anything. But I will say that's not going to happen if you're using Vajra and Brutus. It's just not. And the Rift is the only area in the game where you actually need your mythic armor. When you start reaching end game, you can put together alternate sets of unique armor like this. These are called side builds, and you can use them for every aspect of the game except the Rift, because they can't gain any Rift power. So choosing a starting class that might make the Rift more difficult is potentially shooting yourself in the foot. So I'm going to be demonstrating how to play Expert Rift in quite a heavy deficit for each class, and I'm going to show you how to play it best. Now for the guild boss high scores, you need heroes with strong distributed rage powers. The rule of rage powers is if it has any added special effects, the damage will be lower. So the best ones for high scores are the ones that have just pure damage and don't really do anything. They don't have expose, or they don't have poison or whatever. If it just doesn't do anything and it's just pure damage like Critter or Bacon, then that's as high as the numbers are gonna go. The only way that the numbers get higher than that is on heroes like Balendu, where it's just pure damage. But then it also says strong versus burn. It gets a buff to it as well if the enemy has burn. And this is the only place in the game where the strong versus types of the heroes actually matter. Because for guild bosses, you really do need to min-max as much as possible to get those high scores. In all the other areas of the game, you should really be choosing your heroes based on what they do, rather than their strong versus type. And finally, in the arena in endgame, you're ideally looking for setups that can kill reliably on turn 2, because in most cases trying to get to turn 3 will get you killed. However, there is a little trick you can use if you equip a level 1 weapon and keep your damage low. You can trick the enemy AI into thinking that you're weaker than you are, and it will go easier on you, giving you the most chance of making it into turn 3 or even turn 4 in some cases, because there's just some builds where it's not viable to get consistent turn 2 wins. So you're going to need those extra actions, and I'm going to demonstrate turn 3 wins with some of these builds. Usually, if anything goes past turn 2, I will be using a level 1 weapon. That is why. And that is it for this massive intro, so let's get into it. Now then, the Rogue class. Rogue class is another interesting one to talk about. Some people will tell you it's amazing and others will tell you the opposite. Since the last time I did a Rogue video, when Lucius was released, he has had a number of rebalances, namely his base power doesn't take 3 business days to charge anymore, and he gives you Protect for 3 turns now instead of 1. And yes, when he was released it was just 1 turn of Protect, and it was completely pointless. Now I've been playing with Rogue Charms equipped and exploring how this class really plays for a few months now. It's been a long while to bring you a proper overview of what it is like to play. So starting with accessibility, and straight away I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. But there is a but. The accessibility of getting into this class early depends entirely on when you started this game and RNG, because as I've been banging on about in all these videos, to really get into the end game without spending money or months of mindless grinding, you need to be using Weaken and Protect. Effectively, Lucius has Weaken on Rage, he has Protect on base, free turn Protect, and he heals you on his base power as well. He is pretty much the ultimate shortcut to using this whole strategy. It's all-in-one hero, but he is unique, so naturally it's quite hard to unlock him unless you've played one of his events. He is the event hero for Abysmal Mist, so the chances of unlocking him there is quite high. And then you have guild wars and all that stuff where you are unlocking shards, and there's plenty of opportunities to unlock him. But what I'm saying is, if you have him unlocked, if he is on your roster, then Rogue Class is an option that you can take. If you do not have him unlocked, then don't even bother. Go watch one of the other videos in this playlist, because Rogue Class is not for you right now. Now let's talk about PvE, because we have this ultimate hero who does everything that I talk about on my channel, and weirdly, in stark contrast to the mage class, which is the video that I just did, with mage class you end up with one combo of heroes that you can't really switch in any situation that you might die, because everything is reliant on each other. But here you have one hero that gives you Protect, he gives you heals, and he gives you Weaken. So you have a completely free hero slot all the time that you can slot any hero you want into, and you don't ever need a triangle weapon either. But are any of the other heroes even worth slotting? Because the rogue heroes, outside of a couple of outliers which I'll talk about in a minute, they all do exactly the same thing: is single target, high damage, base power, and a distributed rage. So you have Bionic, Kira, Wei Feng, Guns Rage. You don't ever, under no circumstances, want to use Guns Rage, so that's just a strong versus militia base power there. Kira, Bionic, and Wei Feng, you just slot them based on the strong versus type. So if you see a Bakuber, you equip Kira. If you see the Golem enemies with the shield and the sword, you equip Wei Feng on Bionic, and that's pretty much how you play it. And then the outliers here are Camille, he doesn't even count. And then you have Samael and Eileen. Now Samael is distributed rage again, but the base power, it hits the entire front row, which is the only hero in this class that does this, and it has delay, which is crucial for some of the bosses that you see in the Rift, but it takes 5 moves to charge, even with a Rogue Speed Gauntlet. 7 moves without it takes forever. And some of these bosses, they charge up every single turn. You cannot charge him quick enough to keep them delayed, so it can be problematic, but it does work well because it hits the whole row. And then you have Eileen, who has the only useful non-distributed rage, and she's got the high damage single target base power as usual, but the rage power is pretty good and it exposes everything as well. Now another problem you have is that the Lawful and Champion gauntlets are just horrible. They're just really, really bad. I have been banging on for years that they need to buff the Lawful Gauntlet, because even though the Lawful Gauntlet has the same description as the Chaotic Gauntlet, it is terrible. Even if you use it with a rogue hero, you get more rage than normal, but the rage you get for using a hero's power is tiny. You get a little sliver, so it takes forever. And guess what, says Midoki, let's fix it here. You can have a rage gen hero. So if you do want to generate rage with any sense of urgency, then you need to drop all the rest of those heroes and equip Bonnie. Now, Bonnie is a PvP hero, really, so you're never going to use her rage, ever. It's distributed and it's direct to health. If there's only one enemy left and it's got a lot of armor, then you might use this, but the use cases in PvE are just not there for this hero. So you use the base power to fill the rage, and then you're going to be using Lucius rage a lot. And all those options have just gone up in smoke, because if you do use any of those options, it's going to take forever for you to generate rage, and then you're going to start burning through potions to be able to rage fast enough to get your Weaken up, and it's just not a great situation overall in PvE, especially when threat is high in the Rift and stuff like that. But what it does do for you is, because of Lucius, you get access to a whole different playstyle here. This is the only class really where I would recommend this playstyle, because you will never need a triangle sword ever. You don't need protect from your weapon, but you will be solely dependent on Lucius. But here that's not really a bad thing. This is the only class where it's not a bad thing, because he's only one hero. He gets protect and he gets weaken, and you can really lean into damage from the weapon here. And the playstyle goes like this: Lucius base is going to charge in 3 moves to give you protect, and then Bonnie's going to charge in 4 moves to generate rage, and then you can rage Lucius to get the weaken. Every single action in between those, you're going to be swinging a crit chain damage weapon to clear out some of the enemies that are on the field. So you get 3 swings on turn 1, and then you get 2 swings on turn 2, and then you use Bonnie's base power, and then you rage Lucius to get weakened. And because you swing in a massive weapon, you're going to be thinning out the herd. And because all the rages are distributed, well, you're only going to be using Lucius rage here because Bonnie's is completely useless. But because the rage is distributed, less enemies equals more damage, and it does work surprisingly well, actually. But because you're concentrating all your actions on thinning the herd and wiping out some of those enemies, you can really push that rage damage up a little bit, because less enemies equals more damage, and that's the way that you have to look at these fights. Now, when the threat starts to get super high, you will need potions to get the weakened rage and protect base off before the enemies move. So you're going to be burning a lot of haste potions or purple power potions to sort of get any traction here. 100 to 150 to 170 threat, anywhere around there. So you're going to be trying to aim to keep the threat lower while you're playing this class. But you could also lean more into armor charms if you want, because the hero damage is going to be so lackluster anyway that I don't think you're going to notice a massive difference between 15 or 10 hero charms. But then on the other hand of saying that, since Lucius has been buffed to charge in 3 moves, his base power heal is incredibly low. So you're gonna have to try and find a balance between having enough armor, having enough hero power to make that heal useful, and being able to kill the enemies quickly enough. I haven't had any mind to mess with the charms on my gear, so that's a whole different level of experimentation that I'm not going to get into. But I feel like you're going to be able to find a bit of a balance by experimenting there and finding out what works for you. Now, I'm giving it a 3 out of 5 overall for PvE, because while it is interesting and a different playstyle to try, it does still struggle up against some of those nasty rift bosses without a cleanse hero. And because Samael's base power takes 3 business days to charge for the delay, which is really problematic versus bosses like Trauma, because you have Lucius there giving you protect all the time, and she's strong versus that protect. And then if he's maxed out, he's going to be giving you focus as well, which just means if that power goes off, you're going to die. So you need to really be delaying that power. But then if you do take Samael for delay, then it's going to take you 3 business days to charge rage and his base power. So it really does slow you down, and then you have to start punching because the Lawful Gauntlet is terrible. So it's good, but it most definitely could be better. It does sort of struggle a lot where other classes wouldn't. Now, PvP, there's only one hero you really need for this as well, which is Bonnie. She is the main PvP hero now, and if I hadn't made this video before she come out, I didn't have anything good to say about PvP for this class, because there was a strategy, but it was terrible. I will tell you that strategy in case you don't have Bonnie unlocked. If you didn't unlock her in the event, then you bang out of luck, because it's going to take them months to put her in the chests, and then when she does go in the chests, it's going to be months where she has a ridiculously low drop rate, which will appear to be accidental, but it's never accidental because it happens with every single new hero. That will last for about 3 months of people complaining, and then it will magically go up and the devs will act like nothing happened. This happens for every single hero. It probably sounds like I should be wearing a tinfoil hat, but go join Discord and everybody there will tell you that as well. Now, for Bonnie, all you do is, if you happen to have Kira max stars, you equip her for the plus 30% crit chance. And then if you have Bonnie max stars, if you wailed a little bit in the event, she will get more crit chance from her max star perk as well, which is the ideal situation really. Kira and Bonnie both max stars, then you have a lot of crit chance. If you have neither of that, it doesn't matter, because the crit chance is just extra. Bonnie's damage direct to health is in the range of Phlox and Alder and Mika and all those So even without the crit chance, it's still going to be a decent thing to use. Because she's a rage gen hero, you can use lawful or champion, it doesn't matter which one. You use a damage weapon to clear out the minions in the first 4 actions, exactly the same as all the other rage generated heroes in arena. Then you use the base power to generate rage, and then you rage Bonnie, and it's as simple as that. Again, if Kira is not max stars, the secondary hero can be anything you want because it's not going to be doing anything. Bonnie is literally doing everything for you here. Now, if you don't have Bonnie, you're going to be waiting a while. You have Bayani and Wei Feng. This is a turn 3/turn 5 thing. It's not fast and it's generally not that reliable, and you need the Lawful Gauntlet to make this work as well. Now, this is a level 1 weapon, obviously, and if you can put Protect Charms on that level 1 weapon, then it's going to be even better. But that's to make the enemy AI think you're weak. I've talked about this pretty much every other video now. And what you do is you go in and you look at the minions, you pick the weakest looking one, and then on the weakest one, you swing for Protect and then punch it. Then on the second turn, you turn to the other minion, the stronger looking one, you swing for Protect, and then you use Bayani's base power to kill it, and then turn back to the weaker looking minion and punch it twice. It will probably die at this point, but if it doesn't, then you just use Wei Feng's base power to finish it off. And then turn to the knight, swing the sword for Protect again, use Bayani's base power. Now, if Expose lands from Bayani's base power, you use Wei Feng. If Expose doesn't land, you use Bayani's rage. And that's it really, cross your fingers and hope they die. They probably won't die, and then you just have to do what you need to do to generate rage again, and then rage a second time. But that's the old one, that was the main one, and honestly I didn't have anything good to say about that, so it's a good job I waited until Bonnie come out. But it gets a 4 out of 5 because of Bonnie bringing it into a viable state. If it wasn't for her, it would be getting like a 2 out of 5 or something for the other one. I do not recommend the other one, but it is there if you need it. Now for guild boss high scores, you have a lot of distributed rages here, so you can cover a good amount of bosses. The only ones that are in high score territory though are Kira and Samael. Wei Feng can achieve decent scores versus Avatar, but the mage class just walks all over it with Balendu. So for Kira, you can go with the Dark Gauntlet for the plus 30% damage because she is dark, and Critter to generate rage there, but it is a pain to use, honestly. I've got a whole video about that one that I will try and find and link, but I like to just use the Maverick Gauntlet for ease of use here. But the Dark Gauntlet thing is a thing. If Critter is not leveled up, it is better, because you have to watch how much damage she's doing. If she is leveled up, then it can be a bit more problematic. I'll link the video that talks about that. It is a pain to use though. And then for Samael, there's a whole discussion to be had here, because his rage is technically stronger than Garen, but he doesn't get plus 80% chance to crit like Garen does, and as well as that, the only way to make Samael's rage better than Garen's is to inflict acid and expose every single turn before you rage. So again, it's a pain to use. The potential for high score is there, but it's getting a 3 out of 5 because everything's just a pain in the ass, to be honest. Overall though, the rogue class to me is a 3 out of 5. There's a lot of good things, but there's a lot of bad things here as well. And because of what Lucius does, it does allow you to use a whole different playstyle, which honestly is interesting, and it has been pretty fun to play. But you can't push the game as far as you possibly could with some of the other classes. And yeah, that's my impression of the rogue class. I mean, it's alright, but you do struggle and you do use quite a lot of potions. And that is it from me today. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I have been James B09. Good luck out there.